Right about that, if you don't mind just kind of facing me, raise your right hand. Thank you. You solemnly state that the testimony you may give in the cause and nothing before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
You please take a seat in the witness stand. Adjust the microphone there and state and spell your name, both of them.
Kirk Anderson, KIRKANDERSON.
I forgot to mention this to you. The clock on the wall is getting worse. Yesterday, it was like 4 minutes off. Now it's about 7 minutes off. So we're not going by that clock. I got a wristwatch. We'll go by the wristwatch. And I have 10 minutes before.
About 5 more.
What?
Only about 5 more.
It's misleading. So we're going to go by, and I'm sure all your watches synchronize our watches. 10 minutes to 11. All right, go ahead.
Thank you. Sir, would you start by telling the jury who you work for
I work for Los Angeles Police Department.
and how long have you been a police officer for?
A little over 9 years.
Which station were you working at in November of 2021?
Hollywood Police Station.
And on November 8th, 2021 specifically, were you working that day?
Yes,
What was your assignment that day at Hollywood Police Station?
I was working the front desk.
What does that mean when you say working the front desk?
It's a patrol assignment over to the desk where people come in and you take reports and help citizens out.
Would that literally mean you're sitting at kind of the front desk in the lobby of the police station?
Correct.
And the people that you're talking about, who you take reports from, would those be citizens that walk in off the street to report crimes to you at the desk?
Yes,
On November 8th, 2021, did you interview a man by the name of Terell Ephron?
yes, I did.
And how is it that you came to interview him that day?
He walked into the lobby of the police station.
When he came in, was he alone or was he with anyone else?
He said he was with a lawyer. There was a man in a suit that was with him.
It's not just that he told you he was a lawyer, you also saw this man wearing a suit.
Yes,
Okay. And if you could tell the jury broadly, what was it that Mr. Ephron was there to report?
he said he was a victim of a shooting and that he was shot by this unknown celebrity by the name of A$AP Rocky.
In addition to tell you that the person who had shot him was A$AP Rocky, did he tell you that person's true or legal name?
Yes, he did.
And what was that name that he gave?
Rakim Mayers.
Did Mr. Ephron tell you how it was that he knew Mr. Mayers?
He said they'd known each other for about 15 years, and he was part of a group called A$AP Mob.
When you say he told you that, was that Mr. Ephron telling you that only Mr. Mayers was part of it, or that both of them were part of that group?
That both of them were part of it.
Before we get to the actual shooting that Mr. Ephron told you about, did Mr. Ephron tell you about anything that happened just prior to the shooting between him and Mr. Mayers?
Ephron said that he heard that A$AP Rocky was talking bad about him over the cell phone, and that was the day prior to the shooting.
Did Mr. Ephron tell you that he specifically heard the defendant talking bad about him, or that he heard about the defendant talking bad about him?
He heard about the defendant talking about him.
So did he tell you that he heard words coming out of the defendant's mouth?
Objection to the leading, Your Honor. Foundational. Repeat. Objection to the leading. Foundation.
I don't recall specifically.
Did you document it in your report?
I did.
Would it refresh your memory to look at your report?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, Your Honor. Almost bad habit. I'm going to distract your attention. Does that refresh your memory to what Mr. Ephron told you?
Yes.
And did he tell you that he specifically heard Mr. Mayers talking bad about him, or that he heard about Mr. Mayers talking bad about him?
He stated that he heard Mr. Mayers was talking bad about him.
Okay. Did he give you any more information about how it was that he overheard that information?
He did not.
What did Mr. Ephron tell you that he did after he heard Mr. Mayers talking bad about him?
He sent a text message to a friend that he said ASAP Rocky was being fake.
And did Mr. Ephron tell you that that friend was a mutual friend of theirs, or just his own personal friend?
I believe it was a mutual friend.
Okay. Did Mr. Ephron tell you where this encounter or incident first took place?
Yes, 6200 Hollywood Boulevard.
Are you at all familiar with 6200 Hollywood Boulevard?
I've driven by there. It's a major intersection area.
Is 6200 Hollywood Boulevard, is that a very large building in Hollywood?
Yes,
Takes up almost an entire city block, correct?
correct.
Did Mr. Ephron narrow down for you where at that building their initial encounter took place?
They said it was at the driveway.
Any more detail about what the driveway either led into?
I believe it was a parking garage.
Okay. Did Mr. Ephron tell you when that meeting at the parking lot took place in reference to when the phone call was that he overheard where Mr. Mayers was talking bad about him?
Yes, the following day on November 6th at 10 p.m. was when they met in the driveway.
So, if I understand what you're saying correctly, Mr. Ephron said he overheard this phone call, then the very next day is when the driveway incident took place?
Yes,
All right. Did he give you any specific date, day, or time when that meeting at the parking lot took place?
yes, 10 p.m.
Do you remember the date?
November 6th.
And do you remember what day of the week that was?
I don't.
Would you have documented it in your report?
I don't believe the specific day is.
Okay. But November 6th of 2021?
Yes.
What did Mr. Ephron tell you when he occurred, when he first got to that parking garage?
So when he got there, he saw ASAP Rocky, and he saw two mutual friends of his and ASAP Rocky. One he said his name was ASAP Illz, and the one I believe goes by the name of 12B.
Did he tell you that those two men, Ills and 12E, were with Mr. Mayers?
Yes.
Okay, and then what was the next thing that he told you happened?
He said from about 5 to 10 feet away, ASAP Rocky pulled out a black handgun from his waistband and told him, "What's up now, pussy?"
Okay. What did he tell you happened immediately after that?
He then pointed the handgun at Ephron and said, "I will kill you right now," approximately 2 to 3 times.
And then what did he tell you happened after that?
ASAP Illz and 12B tried to intervene and de-escalate the situation, and they all walked over together to the area of Selma and Vista Del Mar.
Did he tell you who, if anyone, was the first person to walk away?
They were in front of him when they were walking to that location.
When you say they, who are you talking about?
ASAP Rocky, ASAP Illz, and 12B.
All right. And what did Mr. Ephron tell you he did after that first altercation at the parking garage?
Once they got to the area of Selma and Vista Del Mar, he said ASAP Rocky turned around and fired approximately 3 to 4 shots at Ephron.
Okay. Before we get there, I want to go back to the parking garage really quickly. Did Mr. Ephron tell you at any point that the defendant specifically pointed the handgun at him?
Yes.
He told you, or yes, that? What did he tell you with regard to that?
After he said, "What's up, pussy?" he pointed the handgun, and he stated, "I will kill you right now." At it.
Okay. That was when you, okay, thank you. Where again did he tell you that the rounds were fired?
At the area of Selma and Vista Del Mar.
And how many shots did he tell you he believed were fired?
Approximately 3 to 4.
Did he tell you whether he was struck by any of the gunfire?
Yes, he said he was struck in his left hand knuckles area.
When he walked into the police station, you had a chance to observe him, obviously, correct?
Yes,
Could you see any injury to his left hand knuckle area?
I did see an injury to his hand knuckles.
Okay. I'm going to show you what I previously marked as equals 17. You recognize what you see there?
Yes,
And does that appear consistent with the injuries that you saw to Mr. Ephron
it
on
does.
November 8th? And you said that was to which of his hands?
His left hand.
Okay. After the gunshots were fired, what did Mr. Ephron tell you happened next?
He said he ran off one direction and ASAP Rocky and others ran off another direction.
Where did Mr. Ephron tell you that he went?
Eventually he made his way back to his hotel, the Lowe's Hotel in Hollywood.
Okay. What, if anything, did he tell you he did after you got to his hotel?
After he got to the hotel, he said approximately an hour later he came back to the scene of Selma Vista Del Mar, and he said he collected 2 casings off the ground.
Did he tell you at all about documenting where he observed those 2 cartridge casings?
Yeah, he provided a photo of the casings on the street.
Did he actually show you a photo?
Yes.
Okay. You said Mr. Ephron told you this happened on November 6th, but he was reporting it to you on November 8th, correct?
Yes.
Did you ask him specifically why he waited to the 2 days to report this to you?
He said he wanted to have a lawyer with him.
Great. Did you ask what state he was living in at the time you were talking to him?
I don't recall.
Direct you to the top cover page of your report if that assists you in refreshing your recollection.
Yes.
What state did he say he was living?
New York?
And did you ask him specifically why he was in Los Angeles at that time?
I don't recall.
Okay. You said that Mr. Ephron, at the time he walked into the police station on November 8th, he had 2 fired cartridge cases with him, correct?
Yes, he did.
Can you describe that in more detail for the jury?
It was 2 steel casings. It said 9mm Luger on each of them.
How did he have it?
It was in a black plastic bag.
Okay. And did he physically give them to you?
He gave me the plastic bag and I took them out of the plastic bag.
What did you do with them after you received them?
It was booked as evidence, put them inside of an evidence envelope, and then I sealed it and wrote the information on the envelope.
When you say you booked it as evidence, what is that? Can you just describe for the jury what exactly that means?
So it gets sealed up, I write my name on the envelope, I write the contents inside of the envelope, and then it gets assigned a DR number, which is specific to this case, and then it goes in for at Hollywood Police Station, it goes inside of a closet where we store all the evidence.
Did you seal it before you store it?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna mark my next exhibit, Your Honor, 32. If it can just be labeled as envelope and its contents.
Yes.
And I'm gonna write 32 on the front, in the bottom right-hand corner on this envelope. I'm gonna show you first the envelope and ask if you recognize what we see here.
Yes.
And what is this?
This is the envelope for where I seal the casings, that's the information I wrote on it.
Okay, and this would actually be the envelope you filled out that night, correct?
Correct.
It has your name on it, correct?
Yes.
And your badge or serial number?
Yes.
Okay. You said the date is on there, correct?
Correct.
And a description of the contents, correct?
Yes.
You also mentioned this number at the top right that's labeled DR number.
Yes.
Is that number that we see there 2106-18784?
It is.
Is that number unique within LAPD to this case specifically?
Yes, specifically just this case.
So there will be no other case in LAPD that also utilizes that?
Correct.
All right. Now, in addition to that number, the DR number that's unique to this case, do you also assign a separate number to the items that you are receiving? Like an item number?
I don't understand.
Sure. When you book something into evidence, let's take it more generally. In any case, would you agree with me that you or other people working on the case may, over the course of the case, book multiple items under one case number or DR number, correct?
Correct.
So let's say on the first day you collect one item and you book it, and on the second day you collect another item and you book that second item. Would the first item that you collect be booked as item number 1 under that DR number?
Yes, it would.
And then on the next day when you collect another item, would that be booked as item number 2 under this same DR number?
Yes.
Okay. When you did that in this case, what number did you assign to the casings that Mr. Ephron provided to you?
Item number 1.
So both casings would be item number 1, correct?
Yes.
Now, once you go through that whole process that you talked about, receiving the item, packaging it, putting it in the envelope, sealing it, where does it go?
It goes in our evidence closet, and then the next day the evidence employee takes it and puts it in the evidence room.
Does it go to something within LAPD called the property division?
Yes.
And is it held there until it's needed at any time in the future?
Correct.
Okay. I'm gonna ask you to open the envelope, if you would. Do you have a knife or any way to open it? It's underneath.
Wait, let us pull it open.
I'll get the knife. I want to do it cleanly. You can do it from the top too. would you agree with me that inside of the larger envelope, there's a smaller envelope?
Yes.
Okay. And it has a number 1 on it, correct?
Correct.
And it has the same unique DR number on it, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Your Honor, can I borrow the knife one more time? Okay. Officer Anderson, I'll put them on the Elmo here. Zoom in. Now, do these appear similar to the cartridge cases that you received that night?
Yes, they do.
Do you specifically remember exactly the cartridge cases that were given to you? Are these those same exact cartridge cases?
They are.
Okay. Are you familiar with what's called a head stamp on a cartridge case?
I'm not.
You're not. Are you familiar with kind of the words that are written on the back of the cartridge case?
Yes.
And in this case, what caliber of ammunition would these cartridge cases be?
9mm.
9mm Luger?
Yes.
Okay. So these are the same cartridge casings that Mr. Ephron brought to you that you packaged up and booked into property division, correct?
Correct.
I got nothing else, Your Honor. I'm gonna, just for the record, I'm gonna put them back in the smaller envelope, and then I'm gonna put the smaller envelope back into the larger.
Who wants to, question Officer next?
Thank you.
All right. Let's see, go ahead.
Good morning, Officer.
Good morning.
We've never spoken before, right?
Correct.
Now, as a law enforcement officer, when you're interviewing someone making a complaint, you want to make sure your report is as complete and accurate as possible, right?
Yes.
Okay. And that's because you understand that the report may be relied upon in the future at hearings or a trial like this one, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, on November 8th, 2021, you said you were working at the front desk at the Hollywood Police Station.
Yes.
And at 7:20 that day, Joe Ephron came into the station and made a complaint to you about an alleged shooting, right?
Yes.
And obviously that's a serious complaint, right?
Correct.
So it's important for you to be as careful in taking down this information as possible, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you memorialized that information in a written report, correct?
Yes.
In fact, that report was reviewed and approved by your supervisor, Officer Deneen, correct?
Correct.
Now, as detailed in your report, Mr. Ephron told you about an incident, I think you just described it, that occurred on November 6, 2021, involving Mr. Mayers and 2 other people he identified as AP Illz and 12 people, right?
Yes.
Okay. And specifically, I think you testified to this, Mr. Ephron told you that as he was approached by Mr. Mayers pulled out a gun from 5 to 10 feet away. Is that what he told you?
Yes.
Okay. In fact, the first page of your investigative report has a pre-printed box, which is called weapon, right?
Yes.
Okay. And that's for you to identify any weapon that a complainant reports to you, correct?
Correct.
Right. And you made a note in that report of a gun, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if a knife were involved in an incident, that's an important fact you would know, right?
Yes.
And you didn't make any note of the knife in this case, either in that pre-printed box or in the narrative portion of your report, correct?
Correct.
And that's obviously because Mr. Ephron, when reporting to you what happened, didn't tell you that 12E displayed a knife to him during the incident, right?
He did not.
In fact, Mr. Ephron made no mention of a knife being involved in this incident, correct?
Correct.
To the contrary, rather than displaying a knife, Mr. Ephron told you that 12E actually attempted to de-escalate the situation. Is that right?
Yes.
And he told you that AP Illz also tried to de-escalate the situation, correct?
Yes.
Now, during your interview with Mr. Ephron, he also told you that he returned to the scene of the incident approximately an hour later.
Yes.
Is that right? And he gave you those 2 shell casings that he claimed to recover from the scene, the ones you just saw, right?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Sustained is the word claim.
Okay. He gave you the 2 shell casings that he told you he recovered from the scene, right?
Yes.
Just so it's clear, Mr. Ephron told you he recovered those shell casings about an hour after the incident on November 6th, 2021, right?
Yes.
Okay. And he didn't give them to you until 2 days later, November 8th, 2021, right?
Yes.
Now, after you received the shell casings from Mr. Ephron, you requested that they be examined for latent prints.
I did.
And obviously, as an experienced law enforcement officer, you wouldn't have requested an examination that you knew would be useless. Am I correct?
Correct.
Right. So you requested that examination for latent prints because you understood that fingerprints can be lifted off shell cases, right?
Yes.
Right. Now, when speaking with Mr. Ephron on November 8th, 2021, he told you that he had a small scrape on his left hand from the incident, right?
Yes.
In fact, you saw a picture of it on the screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. And after him telling you about that small scrape and you seeing it, you clearly didn't see a need to get him an ambulance or some type of medical treatment, right?
Right.
In fact, at that time, on November 8th, 2021, you discussed with Mr. Ephron if any medical treatment, what if any medical treatment he already received for that small scrape. You asked him about that, right?
Yes.
And what he told you was, I just treated it myself on the day it occurred, right?
Correct.
Now, you were asked by Mr. President about the reported statements that Mr. Ephron made to you, right?
Yes.
Okay. And to be clear, when Mr. Ephron made all of his statements to you, he had a civil lawyer standing next to him, right?
Yes.
Now, you said you asked Mr. Ephron why he waited 2 days to report the incident, and he told you because he wanted to have a lawyer present for him, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did Mr. Ephron tell you that another reason he waited to report the incident is because he was attempting to contact Mr. Mayor's quote-unquote people, including his manager, Mr. Mayor's manager, trying to get money before he even contacted a lawyer? Did he tell you that?
No.
In fact, Mr. Ephron never told you that before coming to see you, meaning before he made his report to the police, that he had already texted a screenshot of the scraped fingers to Mr. Mayor's manager with messages saying that he, Mr. Ephron, was getting rich. He never told you that, right?
No.
I'm asking you, overall, was told you. And the answer was he never conveyed that to you, right?
Correct.
Right. In fact, Mr. Ephron also did not tell you that before coming to the police, he had already sent a text message to his own business associate saying, quote, I want to get this N-word's money, referring to Mr. Mayor's. He never told you that either, right?
Right.
And Mr. Ephron also did not tell you that before making his report to the police, before he came to you, Mr. Mayor texted him that Mr. Ephron was trying to extort him, that Mr. Ephron should stop calling Mr. Mayor's manager, and that Mr. Ephron should call the police. He never told you any of that, did
He did not.
he? Thank you very much. I don't have anything right.
Thank you.
Mr. Sullivan, how long did you estimate your interview of Mr. Ephron was?
Approximately maybe 20 minutes.
And included in that 20 minutes, some of that time was in you actually writing down or documenting things on your report.
Yes.
Is your report a verbatim transcript of what Mr. Ephron told you or a summary?
A summary.
The gun that Mr. Ephron reported was pointed at him. Did he tell you what kind of gun it was? Meaning, was it a revolver or semi-automatic?
He just said black handgun.
Okay. Did you document something in your report that it was a specific type of gun?
I have to review the report.
What did he tell you?
It was a semi-automatic.
Okay. You were asked about latent fingerprints. How many times are you aware of latent fingerprints being lifted off of cartridge cases?
I want to know the answer.
I mean, have you ever received a latent print report documenting fingerprints on fire cartridge cases yourself personally?
No.
Okay. I have nothing else.
All right, thank you, Officer Anderson.
Thank you.
Next witness.
My next witness is Detective Flores.
Thank you. So state that the testimony you may give in the cause not been in this court. To be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Please take a seat and witness stand there. Again, please state. And spell your name.
Yes, first name is Frank, F-R-A-N-K. Last name is Flores, F-L-O-R-E-S.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, would you tell the jury what your occupation and assignment are?
Yes, I'm a detective with Los Angeles Police Department. Assigned to a robbery homicide division.
Were you also in that assignment in November of 2021?
Yes, I was
How long have you been a police officer for?
just over 29 years now.
Were you one of the assigned detectives on this case?
Yes, I was.
Who were your partners on this case?
I was assigned along with Detective Carlos Camacho and Detective Donetta Bennett.
And were you and your partners assigned this case on November 9th of 2021?
Yes,
After you were assigned to this case, did you go to the location where the crime occurred, and specifically to Vista Del Mar and Selma Avenue in the city and county of Los Angeles?
yes.
What was your primary focus in returning to that location?
Primary focus was to canvass the area for cameras, witnesses, any evidence related to the incident that was recorded.
Then, when you say cameras, would that be like surveillance video footage?
Yes, I mean, anything private, public, anything that would capture events from that night.
Okay, I'm gonna show you what I marked as one. Do you recognize the area that's depicted here?
Yes,
Okay. I can turn on the little screen for you too, if that makes it easier. No, you have to go back to this.
okay.
When you went back to that location, were you able to observe surveillance camera footage from any locations in that area?
Yes,
Would you point out any of those locations on the map for the jury?
yes. So there was a large area that was canvassed. Argyle here would be on the west side, south side, Selma, Vista Del Mar, which is the north-south street, which kind of dodges right, comes east-west, and exits out to El Centro. There's also canvas, along with, I believe, Hollywood Boulevard as well. So roughly the entire kind of block with the side street of Vista Del Mar in between.
Okay, we've heard about this location, 6200 Hollywood Boulevard. Can you point out for the jury where that location is on this map or graphic?
Yes, 6200 is pretty much the entire, almost encompasses the whole block. It's a very large property, which encompasses from Hollywood down to Selma, down to Vista Del Mar, and then Central on the east.
Okay. Would there be, you said all the way down to Selma, but would these buildings right at the northeast corner of Argyle and Selma, those would be separate from 6200?
Correct, kind of cuts off right around the bend here, Vista Del Mar down.
Got it, okay. And we also heard reference in Mr. Ephron's testimony to the W Hotel. Can you point out for the jury where the W Hotel would be?
Yes, the W would be here on the west side of Argyle. There's a large kind of lobby entrance, parking entrance here. I believe this is it here. Roughly mid-block between Hollywood and Selma on the west side of the street.
So right where it says Argyle Avenue, you were pointing just to the left of that, those kind of two white lines. Would that be the driveway that would drive into sort of the valet area of the W Hotel?
Correct, that's my rough estimate, yes.
Okay. The locations where you observed surveillance video from, can you point out those locations?
Yes. So the first point was the parking structure of Argyle, which is roughly just here on Argyle on the east side of the street, just north of Selma. The parking area where the first incident took place. As we continued the path south and then east, as we began northbound on Vista Del Mar, there were cameras here at, I believe this is 1616 Vista Del Mar, which is a kind of privately owned building. And then beyond that, there were cameras attached to 6200 Hollywood Boulevard. In the windows, roughly kind of on the bend here, on the exterior of the base floor of 6200, kind of the rear end. As the street opened back up to North El Centro, there was an additional camera here at the, it's roughly described as a kind of a loading dock to the building, which is on El Centro, just north of Vista Del Mar.
Okay, Your Honor, if I may mark my next exhibit, Equals 33. It's a single-page document with a photograph of that area of Vista Del Mar and Selma with annotations and markings on it. All right, Detective, I'm showing you what I marked as Equals 33. Do you recognize what you see here?
Yes,
And you see the number of red boxes, the 1, 2, 3, 4.
correct.
Are those each locations where camera footage was retrieved from?
Yes,
Let's start with 1. Would that be the parking structure that we talked about?
yes,
All right, so just to the left of the 1, you see the green triangle with a green arrow in it.
yes, I do.
Can you describe for the jury what would be represented roughly by that green triangle and arrow?
That would be roughly the angle of the camera, which was under the parking structure, kind of awning at the entrance. And the camera faces the northbound towards Hollywood Boulevard, which would be the first major street up.
Okay. And you observed video from that location, correct?
Correct.
I'm gonna show you people's 14.
Selma, which would be right where this intersection is on the bottom end of the page. So northbound view of the camera, looking south.
Okay. And when you were pointing out where the camera was, you were kind of pointing underneath kind of to the roof area underneath where that parking lot driveway is, correct?
That's right.
And I think you were specifically closer to where, I think it says restricted entry.
Yes, roughly there, that area.
Okay. After you observed the video at that location, were you able to obtain a copy of it?
Yes, after canvassing the area, we were able to get copies of different videos from different areas, different times. But yes, we did end up getting a copy of video from this specific camera.
In order to get that specific video, was there anything that you had to do?
Yes,
What was that?
there was a search warrant authored to get copies of video from specifically this camera and the adjoining camera on the central side of the loading dock.
Okay. So what you're talking about is the number 1 and the number 4 on People's 33?
Correct.
Okay. I want to stay with the parking lot first, though. I'm going to pull up the video footage from that location. Now, on People's Exhibit 15 here, there's 2 files in a folder labeled 6200 Hollywood Boulevard, WNPM. And I'm specifically pulling up the one that says commercial parking entrance. Now, one second. Sorry, it's really hard to read. Where I have it paused right now is at 9 minutes and 42 seconds into this video. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
The entire amount of video that you collected from there, was it 1 hour, 18 minutes, and 6 seconds long?
Yes.
And was there a specific time that you started that specific time from when the video started that you collected?
I believe we were looking at roughly around the time of the incident,
Would it have been around 10 o'clock?
roughly 10 o'clock.
Okay. And the video that we're seeing here, would this be the raw video footage that you received from that location?
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna just play it forward a few seconds. time that it's paused there at?
Yes, it shows 10:15, 10 minutes, 15 seconds.
Okay. I'm gonna mark my next exhibit, Your Honor. 34.
Yes.
It's a one-page document that has 3 still images from this parking lot video. They're individually labeled A, B, and C on the page. I don't know why it's coming out in green, but. It's a kind of an odd color up there, detective, but do you recognize where those 3 still images are captured from?
Yes,
And what would that be?
that's from the camera that was recovered at the parking structure.
Now, would you tell the jurors just a little bit about your background, training, and experience when it comes to firearms?
Well, I wouldn't consider myself an expert, but I carried a firearm as long as I've been a police officer. Prior to, I've attended training days, qualified, marksmanship, safety skills with firearms. So I have a good basic understanding through my job and through some extracurricular training days.
Now, in the course of your 29 years of experience, have you had an opportunity to use both semi-automatic pistols and revolvers?
Yes, I carry both.
Are you generally familiar with the difference between those 2 types of firearms?
Yes,
And could you describe that for the jury?
yes. A revolver is kind of the older technology for firearm, the original firearm. It's a wheel gun. It's a wheel where the gun is manually loaded with the ammunition, and after you fire, you have to manually unload it. Meaning, there's a lot more handling of the weapon. When you shoot it, it doesn't eject casings like a semi-automatic handgun. So it's also generally a lower capacity weapon, meaning most revolvers are limited to 5 or 6 rounds capacity. A semi-automatic is more of a modern era weapon. It's a magazine and cartridge fed weapon, which can hold a large capacity of rounds. Anything from a small semi-automatic can hold 5, 6 rounds up to 17, 18 rounds, depending on the size of the semi-automatic handgun. When you fire that gun, the difference is casings eject. Anytime you fire it, the casing will eject from the handgun to clear the way for the next round. Versus a revolver, when it fires, the wheel just spins to the next available chamber. So
A big difference in what you can see in the 2 guns is that wheel that you're describing on the revolver, right?
yes, the revolver's fairly distinct.
And when you watch this video or even observing the still images on the screen up there, based upon your background, training, and experience in law enforcement and handling both semi-automatics and revolvers, what is your opinion with regard to what type of gun that is, specifically between a revolver or a semi-automatic pistol?
No doubt, semi-automatic.
Okay. Move on to the next location. So equals 33 and focus in on location number 2. I believe you already said in your testimony that that location was 1616 Vista Del Mar Avenue, correct?
Correct.
And you said it was a private building, privately owned building, correct?
That was my understanding, yes.
Okay. When you observed video from that location, were there a number of cameras attached to the location?
Yes.
Now, I have People's 33 up here, which I think will make it easier for you to explain, but if you would, could you explain generally how those cameras were, what direction those cameras were facing that were attached to that one building?
Yes, well, basically, if you're looking at the green cones, they represent a camera that was facing in that specific direction. So the property kind of sits on the corner of the bend that goes from Vista Del Mar northbound to Vista Del Mar eastbound. So the cameras face roughly, are placed around the building, facing different angles outwards towards the street.
Okay, so the bottommost one on the building label number 2, that one, that would have been facing towards the intersection of Vista Del Mar and Selma, correct?
Correct.
And that's the grainy surveillance video that we watched a number of times, correct?
Correct.
The very next one to the left of that, it looks like it's facing towards, yeah, that one, the 6200 Hollywood building. What area would that have captured?
That's roughly as the street begins to turn, that's roughly the front of the building. Would roughly cover kind of the pedestrian entrance to the building.
Okay, and then going up to the northmost part of the building, there's 2 additional cameras there, correct?
Correct.
Do those cameras kind of overlap in their coverage?
Yes, roughly they do.
All right. Go back to People's 15, the hard drive. There's a separate folder labeled 1616 Vista Del Mar. Detective, you see there's 2 files in that folder, correct?
Correct.
They both start with the word magic.
Yes.
Okay. The first one ends in the number 3000. I'm gonna open up that file. And I'm gonna make this bigger. Now, do you recognize what you see here?
Yes.
Can you describe this at all for the jurors?
Yes, roughly this is camera number 1 on would be the south side of the building at 1616.
Hold on 1 second. So before you number the cameras, they're actually labeled in the top left-hand corner, correct?
Correct.
So that the top leftmost corner would be camera 1, and there's no image display, correct?
Correct.
And then camera number 2 is the next one over in the top middle, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'm gonna skip forward. Is this how the video came to you when you first viewed it?
Yes.
I'm going to jump over here. It's gonna be hard for me to see it there, so I'm gonna pull it over and then I'll bring it back to you. So right now I have it paused at 22:16:55. Bring it back over. Okay, so we have it paused here. There's 4 cameras that are displayed, correct?
Correct.
And would each one of these represent cameras that we just talked about in that exhibit, People's 33?
Yes.
And if you double click on the cameras, it makes them individual screens, correct?
Yes.
All right, this would be that one that faces towards Vista Del Mar and Selma?
Correct.
Camera 3 would be that next camera to the left, which covers, you said, the front entrance of the building, correct?
Correct.
I'm gonna jump over to camera, is that 5? I believe it's 5.
Correct.
All right, that area that we see in the top left of this camera, is that curve on Vista Del Mar that you were talking about?
Yes, that camera will be facing roughly west and south.
Towards the curve.
Correct.
And then the last one, camera 4, which direction would that camera be facing?
That will be facing eastbound towards Central.
Got it. Okay. And if you play these videos on this player, would you agree that the 4 cameras that are displayed there play simultaneously?
Yes.
So they're each playing what they captured at that moment, correct?
Correct.
I'm gonna start with camera 2. And we'll play it. Pause it. If you could read the time at the bottom, and I'm going to switch screens, but the timestamp at the bottom left here.
It's 22/17/25.
Okay. All right, I'm going to jump over to camera 3. And I'll play it at this portion. And pause it. The time.
22/17/29.
And so would that have shown the same person that we saw running away in camera 2 as they're crossing around the building?
Yes, it's in sequence.
Okay. We'll jump over to number 5 that faces the curve. Might have passed already, but I'll keep playing it from here. Is it moving?
It's not playing.
It's not. Okay. Now, would that be the same person that we saw in the last 2 cameras as well?
Yes.
Okay, and I'll jump to camera number 4. Is that individual now towards the top of the screen here?
Yes.
And pausing it, can you give us the time?
22/17/40.
Would that be when the man in the black sweatshirt beats up the person who's wearing the red jacket?
Yes.
To go back in time a little bit, so that, you would agree that the sequence that we just played was sort of following the man in the black sweatshirt, correct?
Correct.
All right. Go back and I'm going to ask you to follow the other individuals. Before I hit play, would you give us the timestamp again?
22/16/57.
All right. So we've gone back in time now. Would you agree?
Yes.
And I will hit play from here. So after the man in the black sweatshirt runs away, what does the man in the red jacket do?
He pauses initially, then he follows the man in the black switch.
And the other two individuals, you see one of them walking in the same direction that those man in the black and man in the red jacket went?
Yes,
Okay. Is he walking towards El Centro?
yes, he's walking northbound Vista Del Mar, which turns to El Centro.
And we go to camera 3. He's wearing a blue jacket, fair to say?
Yes,
Now to camera 5. And then lastly, camera 4. Would you agree he walks up Vista Del Mar, makes that turn, and then walks towards El Centro?
correct.
Okay. Do you recall the time, the amount of video that you collected from that location, the time specifically?
I do not. I believe there's two clips, different portions for 1616, Vista Del Mar.
1 second then. Okay, Your Honor, we have written stipulations that will be entered. Do you want me to mark them as?
Yes.
entered? Okay.
Yes.
So let's mark them as 35.
Sure. Be a little short for us with the stipulation.
I think I already did that, didn't I?
Did.
He did. I've already did it.
Okay.
It's an agreement, it's just an agreement between both sides regarding the fact.
And the further would be that stipulation would mean that once it's entered, that fact is proven. and
Beyond a reasonable doubt.
Does not need any determination.
Okay. I'm gonna put it up and I'll read it into the record. I'm gonna start with stipulation number 1. The parties stipulate as follows. Stipulation number 1, surveillance video from 1616 Vista Del Mar Avenue. On November 9th, 2021, Detective Frank Flores and Carlos Camacho of the Los Angeles Police Department, LAPD, downloaded surveillance video from the privately owned business at 1616 Vista Del Mar Avenue in Hollywood. The video was originally recorded between 10:10 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. and 11 p.m. to 11:20 p.m. on November 6, 2021. The surveillance video contained in People's Exhibit 15 is a true and correct copy of that video. The system video date and timestamp are accurate to actual time. So, Detective, you were saying you collect video between 2 different times, correct?
Correct.
So from 10:10 to 10:30, that would be a portion of which was just played as we went through the video, correct?
Yes,
Then the next portion that you collected started a half an hour later.
correct.
So did you personally watch any of the video between 10:30 p.m. and 11 p.m.?
I believe we screened it through that time period when we were present.
And what did that portion collect or capture, if you recall?
From my recollection, it didn't capture anything that we saw pertinent to the case.
Would it have captured the police or the patrol officers' response?
Yes, it would.
Okay. Did you collect the video between 10:30 p.m. to 11 p.m.?
I'm sorry?
Did you collect that video though from 10:30 to 11 p.m.?
No.
And why did you collect that video?
Again, we were focused on the time periods where the victim had indicated the incident occurred and he had returned.
So you were mainly focused on collecting video of the actual shooting incident, correct?
Correct.
Now, we heard through the stipulation, and I believe through your testimony, that you also collected video from 11 to 11:20, correct?
That's correct.
So why is it that you collected video from that portion of the video?
Again, there was indication that the victim said he had returned to recover evidence from the scene, so that's what we were trying to verify.
Had you spoken to Mr. Ephron at that point?
Yes, I believe we had spoken to Mr. Ephron before we went out to Kansas initially.
And he told you that he went back to collect it, correct?
Correct.
When he told you he went back to collect it, when did he tell you he went back?
He said roughly within an hour.
Okay, so let me go to that second video. So it's from the same system, correct?
Correct.
All right. Go down to the second one. I know we're getting close to noon, Your Honor, if I could just cover this one topic and then we can break. Shoot up. Okay. I have this second video paused at 23:09:44, which would be 11:09:44 p.m., correct?
Correct.
All right. And there's only video collected from camera 2 at this portion, correct?
Correct.
I will play it forward from here. Do you see an individual with kind of a light colored top and a dark colored bottom or pants walking around that area?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Do you have that cursor on there? I'm gonna pause it. A few questions for you. Can you read us the timestamps so we know what was played?
That's roughly 23:11:39.
Okay. Did you hear Mr. Ephron's testimony in this case that he took a photograph just before he collected the cartridge casing, and the photograph was timestamped at 11:45 p.m.?
Yes, I did.
Did you have that precise time or piece of information about Mr. Ephron returning to the scene when you collected this video?
No, not the exact time. Roughly, we had an hour.
And you have just a rough estimate from Mr. Ephron, correct?
That's correct.
Not a precise.
We're gonna take a break now.
I have two questions on this, if I have to finish. Sorry, Your Honor. Did Mr. Ephron tell you that when he returned to the scene to collect those cartridge casings, that he was also with his girlfriend, or essentially with another person?
Yes, another person had gone along with it.
In the portion of the video that you just watched, did you see another person with that individual in the light top?
No.
Is the person in that portion of the video wearing clothing which was consistent with the clothing that Mr. Ephron was wearing at the time of the shooting?
No.
As you sit here right now, do you believe still believe that the person depicted in that video is Mr. Ephron?
Objection, Your Honor.
Well, when you,
Speculation. It calls for speculation.
when you collected that video, did you initially believe that that was Mr. Ephron?
Yes, we did.
Do you still believe that today?
Objection, Your Honor. His opinion as to whether it is or isn't Mr. Ephron is.
No speaking objections.
Sorry, but I was giving you a reason.
Can I give an offer of proof, Your Honor?
Ask the question again.
Yes. You said when you collected the video, you thought that was Mr. Ephron. The question is, as you sit here now, having more information, do you still believe that?
I do.
Just for the objection.
Senator, we can at least say to make an offer.
Objection sustained. That's,
And so answer be stricken, please.
I did, yes, the answer's strict. We'll break till 1:30, folks. Please be outside the courtroom doors and that's the case and no internet.
So, we'll put on the record before we come to that.
Yeah.
Thank you.